Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Danganronpa video. How long has it been? Quite a while. But I can't resist, so here we are. If you're a newer subscriber on the channel, you might not know, Danganronpa was kind of my whole thing for quite a while. So I am contractually obligated to talk about Danganronpa 2x2, which is a remake of my favorite game in the series, plus something else. Now, I'm going to insert my reaction during the trailer here. Seems how that video got copyright claimed, so I can't make any money off of it. Might as well make some money off of the craziest thing to happen to me at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Move on to some more headlines.
Headlines? You've only got 5 minutes left!
Ready for some killer fun in the sun?
Ah, finally, Fire Emblem. That's what they're referencing, right? Did they actually remake Danganronpa 2?
You seem pretty out of it.
Hey, Hajime!
Originally released over
Oh my god, they remade Danganronpa 2! Why? Ah, they're scary! I don't like them! Why do they move?
trapped in a murderous game. After each deadly incident, a heated class trial.
Why does Monokuma look like the V3 design? I don't like it.
High-speed detective
High quality Mahiru.
contradictions and your opponents to reveal
What's happening to me?
and
What do you mean? What do you mean there's two of them?
main game. An additional story is included.
Huh?
One incident will trigger an entirely new scenario with different victims
They,
and
they
culprits.
did a what if mode? No, I can't make Danganronpa 2 too. They can't do this to me.
Danganronpa 2x2. The Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch systems next year.
Oh my god.
Make history in the Three Kingdoms.
You can't.
Dynasty.
Alright, and now we're back. And what I want to do in this video is sort of do a sort of all-encompassing Danganronpa 2x2 trailer video. I'm going to talk about the trailer, I'm going to talk about what I think this new alternate scenario is, and I'm then going to do a tier list for the alternate scenario. So we'll get there. So let's just start with the trailer, right? Yes, Nagito appears. I don't have too much to say about the first half because it's just Danganronpa 2. I will say, as you saw in the reaction, Gundam moving like this is unnerving to me. I'm not sure I totally like it, but I do like all the new UI. The text box is way cooler. The little thing in the top left, I do kind of miss like the pixel art version from before, but it is sleeker. I get that. And the 3D backgrounds are way better, even though, you know, if you do look at them too long, it kind of looks like a movie set or something. But I guess that kind of makes sense for this game specifically. Look at the inn. I think a lot of people were saying, I mean, you can see it on the mini-map here specifically. People were comparing this shot to the shot of the cabins from the original game. And, like, this is not where the cabins are. But it does look, like, vastly improved. This is the little pool where Hajime looks up at the stars early on. And then, obviously, further in we have the foyer and the dining hall, which is nice. We got this is a bonus scene, right? Where everybody collects coconuts. That's funny. Pretty well redone. I mean, there's a little bit of weirdness. Ibuki's hand is weird, but this is Danganronpa. All the hands are weird. Other than that, it looks pretty good. I really don't like this design for Monokuma. I think the original, like, edginess of the character art helped Monokuma be more intimidating, whereas for, like, everybody else, it's just a strict upgrade. But, you know, that's just my thoughts. The actual dialogue of Monokuma in this game does a lot to help him be intimidating compared to something like V3, which is what I'm specifically thinking of, where he sucks. So, little Jabberwock statue. This looks very typical. Like, this is exactly what I remember it looking like on the original game, just better, right? Higher quality. This scene, Classic. This is the image of the Ultimate Imposter I think of every time I think of the Ultimate Imposter. It's this image for some reason. Where are we here? All right, this is the... I wonder if we're going to get different themes for each of the trials. Like, a little bit more different than the original, which more or less just changes some colors around. Because this one seems very... Well, I was going to say it seems very Island 1, but that's just because it has the regular Jabberwock style. Kind of blowing the twist out of the water there with the TV, though, with all the folders on it. You think those folders are going to, like, get deleted every time a character is killed? Trial. This looks cool. I like the text. Looks very nice. Mahiru. She's back. Oh, weird. I didn't even notice that the first time I watched this. The star meter and the health meter are like bars. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like the original had a lot more character. But, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Specifically the star meter being a bar feels weird. The heart meter, sure, whatever, fine. Oh, I'm glad Mahiru's camera still says camera on it. Not Canon, camera. And yes, somebody pointed out she's missing her freckles. What the hell? You can't take that away. Yeah, the trial just looks better. That's nice. I'm a little unnerved again by the moving parts in this one. But, you know, it'll be immersive and add to it. Okay, now we start on the new stuff, which is the 2x2 part. And this is the first thing I want to talk about. So we see the logo transition, right? Good for the logo. We have the original one. And in Danganronpa 2, before Monokuma shows up, we have a sort of yellow and pink theme to the game, which is like the island mode, or like the original Hope Restoration program was yellow and pink themed. And then when Monokuma takes over, of course, it's black and white now, right? You get an island with tumultuous seas. Makes sense. However, noticeably, in this logo, you get the flowers back from the original Hope program thing, and the pink and yellow returns, which makes me think that that could perhaps be a hint as to what this new scenario actually is. But I will let the trailer continue to play. This is very nice. The original sort of map around the island was like fine. It was serviceable. This is way better though, right? Nobody's gonna want the old one back compared to this. This scene definitely never happens in the original game. So I presume this is a follow-up to what we see later in the trailer, where Nagito and Hajime are standing together on top of that sort of elevated location, and they've gone to explore the island now. Interestingly, though, is the little yellow Monokuma announcement and camera are still around in this alternate scenario. So that is interesting. All right, here we are. So it is nighttime when Hajime and Nagito emerge from whatever this building is. But there's a lot of other stuff going on in this scene that is very strange. So, probably first and foremost, there's a boat. There's a boat in the dock. And obviously, in the simulation in Danganronpa 2, there is no means of escaping the island. And there is obviously no boat. Now, this boat does not look that similar to the boat that we see in the anime, or at the end. Well, it looks a little closer to the boat we see at the end of Danganronpa 2. However, I do think it is meant to be the boat that Makoto and friends showed up on this island in. And actually, now that I think about it, suddenly I'm like, hold on a sec. This is a boathouse, right? They're down at a boathouse. And if you look here, because now that I'm looking very closely at it in full screen, you can actually see the top of that building's roof right down there by that boat. Notably, Nagito has put his hands in his pockets, so we cannot see if he has Junko's hand or not. And Hajime is looking away, so we cannot see if he has Izuru's eye or not. So that doesn't really help us narrow down the timeline very much, but looks like we can get down from here. Okay, so they're up high somewhere, that we know. What is that? Okay, they're looking at the boat.
is over. The next class trial is about to begin.
Danganronpa.
All right. That, I think, is also very illustrative. Because one of the big questions I had after watching this trailer, at 6 a.m. in the morning, was why? Why would they, for one, remake Danganronpa 2 first, considering it does rely on knowing what happened in Danganronpa 1? And then why would they decide to do an alternate path off of Danganronpa 2 specifically, right? Why wouldn't they choose to do like an alternate path off of V3 if it was something to do with the canon, or, you know, just make a new game if they had a new story to tell? And I think the reason is that they want to get around V3, I think, and maybe even the anime as well. I think the point of this alternate storyline is so that they can have a jumping off point to make further sequels to Danganronpa. And that might be a little bit of a crazy assumption. I mean, it's a hopeful assumption. I really never thought we were going to get another official Danganronpa game again after V3. So this is quite a surprise, and a pleasant one at that. So, you know, that could make some sense why they go back to Danganronpa 2, because Danganronpa 2 ends on this sort of thing of like, okay, we're heading towards the future. And then after that, we have the anime, which I hate for a number of reasons. It just does, it's very tonally inconsistent, so I don't really like it for that. And then we have V3, which basically decanonizes everything that people liked. Even if, you know, you like V3, which there are some very good parts to V3. I don't like the ending. I think this might be their way of sort of scooting around the ending of V3 to say, oh yeah, more events are coming to this world. You know what I mean? We could make a Danganronpa 3. I mean, V3 is not 3, after all. They'd probably just call it Danganronpa 4, but still. Okay, so now it's time for my theory section of the video on what I think Danganronpa 2x2's alternate route is going to be. And the first most important thing to recognize is from the Steam page. We're going to do some fancy live editing here. So this is from the Steam page for Danganronpa 2x2, coming in 2026. It says, a brand new scenario for fans to enjoy. The latest installment features an all-new storyline built on the foundation of Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair. The original setting and cast of characters are back. But a single incident sets off a completely different chain of events. New victims, new culprits, and brand new tricks await. Whoa, tricks! My favorite thing. The new scenario offers the same volume of content as the original, delivering a complete and immersive experience. So, this is not just a what if. This is a full Danganronpa 2 too, like literally. And that's important to remember, because I think this event that they are talking about in the Steam page is that we are not going to have this killing game take place in the virtual world. I think, given the logo, I mean, I can put some stuff on screen here. Whoa, that's huge. That might happen a couple times. So, given the logo changing back into Hope Restoration Program colors for the 2x2 section specifically, that would imply to me that the Hope Restoration Program did not get corrupted immediately by Monokuma like it does in the regular route, right? Because obviously the logo changes there. If that is true, then the Hope program would have been successful and everybody would wake up normal. Like the characters we know from the game, not like the Despairs, which is a little sad because I actually kind of do like some of those Despair designs. It'd be kind of nice if we could have some of those. Here's a picture. I got a picture. Specifically, I'm talking Nagito, Fujiko. I mean, Mikon's is an improvement. Gundam's is a huge improvement. I like Sonya's. Kazuichi's is better for sure. Hyoko's is better too. I like Ibuki's, and then the rest of them are just, you know, fine. Like, whatever. But we're not getting those, apparently. I mean, look at this screenshot. Nagito is just Nagito, and Hajime is just Hajime. And I think the place where they are standing right now is actually from the anime too. I think it is... Oh, hold on. Wrong picture? Here we go. I think it is this place. boy, it's getting really annoying how huge all these images are. Here we are. So this is the place where they wake up in the anime, from the Neo world. It's this big-ass building on Jabberwock Island, and notably quite elevated above the water level. In fact, I have a second screenshot just to show you exactly how elevated. Here we go. There it is. You can see the water down below. They're on like a little ledge. Now, it doesn't have the same fencing, but, you know, maybe the games decided to put some better safety standards in than the anime did because they didn't want to draw fences forever. That's fair. Which, of course, implies, combined with everything else I've already said, that this game is outside of the Neo World program. That right now, Hajime and Nagito are post Hope Restoration program and are seeing the island outside. So the event that changed the entire story is that Monokuma was not able to, you know, corrupt the Hope Restoration program into a killing game, and it just completed as normal. Which explains why Nagito is, like, normal, too. Like, he's just kind of hanging out, not being crazy. I know he's also just kind of normal at the beginning of Danganronpa 2's regular route as well, but this would explain why he's going to hang out with Hajime for this game. Which it sure seems like he's gonna from all the marketing that we've seen so far, and that is this one trailer. But my point to all of this is to say, if that's true, that leads to a lot of really, really interesting concepts they could play with for this. So many very exciting concepts. So let's talk about that on a tier list. So you're never going to believe this, but because of how many captures I have to make on my OBS, this specific capture screen that I'm using to capture this tier list is actually called Tier Maker 2. It was fate the whole time. You can thank me for what's happened. So if this game takes place in the real world and not on the island, say goodbye to Chiaki. She does not exist in the real world. So she's just not going to be in this route, which it does make some sense. Well, she could be in it, but just not as an actual person, right? As sort of the same level as Alter Ego is in Danganronpa 1 as a character. The same with Usami. It makes sense why Nagito seems to be filling the role of like the partner character that Chiaki would fill in the normal route. Because she's not here to do that. That does kind of open up the question. If Nagito is playing that role, who's playing the... Well, I don't want to say antagonist necessarily, but, you know, the Byakuya role. I imagine this game is going to fill in with the Danganronpa tropes, because why wouldn't it? Although, they actually have a pretty good excuse if this game is specifically, like, breaking out of the simulation that was meant to emulate Danganronpa 1's killing game, and that's why the tropes existed in Danganronpa 2, and then they just did them again in V3 because, creativity hard. This actually would be a good excuse to change up the formula. But for the purposes of this sort of exercise, I'm going to assume they're going to adhere to the tropes anyway. So there should be an antagonist character. And funnily enough, there are two options that are equally likely in my mind. Well, okay, maybe three, but two that are equally likely and one that's a little less likely. The first one is, I think Imposter Byakuya would be a pretty good choice to be an antagonist character. Because especially if Nagito is on our side, so like, you know, the untrustworthy one that nobody really likes is on our side, the idea that the one everybody trusts would be on the other side of the argument most of the time does make some sense. Now, the way the Hope program is supposed to work is everybody's supposed to have to become friends with each other before they leave the program, which would imply that people should at least know Nagito, if not fully trust him. But we also don't see anybody else either. So it could be possible that Nagito and Hajime are just the first two to wake up and everybody else wakes up without their memories or something of the Hope Restoration program. Or maybe, you know, in order to stop the Hope Restoration program from being taken over by Monokuma, they just ejected everybody early. That's something that could have happened as well. Anyway, I think Imposter Byakuya makes sense as a antagonist or a Byakuya role, because he's literally Byakuya. But you know what's better than imposter Byakuya? We have regular Byakuya. We don't need Byakuya at home. Byakuya, Makoto, and Kyoko are all on this island. So if the Despairs have been woken up early from the program, and that's what's causing this alternate route, then Makoto, Byakuya, and Kyoko are here. I mean, I figure maybe what'll happen is, through circumstances, two of them will leave, like Kyoko and Makoto will leave, or Byakuya and Kyoko will leave in order to try to get help because, Monokuma is presumably going to take over the island physically now, given that the, Trojan virus to the Neo World program didn't work. And we still have to have a killing game in this route. That the two of these three are going to leave the island, and then the last one that remains is going to fill Chiaki's spot on the roster. Which, logically, the person to fill Chiaki's spot on the roster would probably be Makoto, because he would be the one rallying everybody to, you gotta remember hope, guys. You can't hurt each other. You're friends. But it could be, if we wanted a new antagonist character, Byakuya would be the perfect one. He's the babysitter that got left behind to watch the Despairs to make sure that the Hope program actually worked, because he doesn't really believe in it when Makoto starts it up, right? So I figured that's probably the most likely outcome of this, and then you can actually have Imposter Byakuya and Byakuya interact, which would be fun, right? Plus, out of all the characters from Danganronpa 1, Byakuya is really the only one who hasn't got a revisit. Like, arguably, the anime was about Aoi, Makoto, and Kyoko. Ultra Despair Girls was about Toko. Technically Byakuya, but he was in prison the whole time. And then Yasuhiro had a whole manga about him, right? Byakuya is the only one who hasn't got his own story, really. And, I could be wrong about that. I'm not super up to date with the extended media of Danganronpa. But this would be a great way to give Byakuya his own sort of redemption arc story from Danganronpa 1 to 2. So yeah, I think that is our roster for this game. I think it's going to be everybody from Class 77 plus Byakuya. So now I can actually start talking about the death order and who I think will survive. So if this killing game is happening in real life, that means these murders will actually be real, and not everybody can Deus Ex Machina come back to life at the end, which is scary. But not for me, because all of my favorite characters died in the first one, so they've got the best chances of surviving. And yes, I really do think that means everybody who survived the first game, aside from probably Hajime, considering he's the main character. But then again, I mean, we haven't had a main character get... Well, okay, technically in V3 the main character got murdered, but not really. The main character did a murder. We haven't got the main character get murdered before, so Hajime dying would be interesting, but I don't know who would take over the game at that point. Nagito? I really do not want to be in Nagito's head for an entire game. So I'm going to presume that Hajime and Nagito are both going to survive. Now, it could be possible that they'll do some sort of ironic twist where, despite being a completely different person and redeeming himself throughout this story, Nagito will end up dying in Chapter 5 again anyway, but to save everybody instead of trying to kill everybody. Which, to be honest, his original plan was to try to save everybody by killing the traitor. He just didn't realize that, the traitor was technically the only non-despair there at the time. But hey, he tried, okay? And now he's getting his second chance. Maybe he'll not waste it. I've sort of set up the survivors that remain with the people they relate to. I do not see Nekomaru surviving till the end. He's just too shallow of a character, you know what I mean? It's the same way I don't see Teru surviving to the end either, because there's not really too much to these guys. And I mean, that might be a reason to let them survive till later, but I really do not think Teru is going to make it super long. Teru feels so much like a Chapter 3 death to me. Time for all the funny guys to go. Yeah, that seems right. Nekomaru, I have kind of an idea what chapter 1 might be. So I'm going to put Nekomaru in chapter 2. Because, again, the fun thing about this is that if they are in the real world and not in the game, none of the motives work either, right? Like, the funhouse doesn't exist, because that was made by Monokuma on the basis of Jabberwock Island. Despair Disease doesn't exist because it was fictional, right? Twilight Syndrome murder case doesn't exist. The money doesn't exist. So, like, none of the motives from Danganronpa 2 will actually be here. So we don't have to worry about trying to subvert them in some way. They're all going to be gone. So I'm kind of just going off vibes. I think a chapter... I really think the chapter 1 death... It has to be somebody important, though. I mean, technically Chiaki's already gone. And if it's not... You know what? Maybe... I don't think I want to do that. This is just entirely speculation now. I was going to put... You know, it could just be this one again. But no, okay. Let's not go crazy. You know what it could be, actually? It could be Fuyuhiko killing somebody. Because I'm very confident Peko is going to survive this time. Just because there's so much fan sort of energy about Peko being kind of a wasted character. Because she never got the chance to actually, like, overcome her programming, basically. So Fuyuhiko dying really early and Peko sort of having to deal with the ramifications of that and becoming a survivor feels like genius storytelling potential. The other ones who really should maybe survive would be Hiyoko, and you know I have to say Mahiru, right? You know I have to say Mahiru. I think out of the two of them, because in the original, Mahiru died to give Hiyoko a character arc that then got cut short, I really think what's going to happen is Mahiru is going to live and Hiyoko is going to die at some point. It could be chapter 1, but that feels a little too on the nose that both of their motivation killers would be in the same chapter. So I'm actually going to maybe go chapter 3 again. Does that feel stupid? Kind of. But it would be interesting if Hiyoko made it through the Hope program and is, again, like a different kind of person, but still ends up dying in the same place just due to, you know, her personality type, you know? Instead of being like a little brat or whatever, like she is in the regular Danganronpa 2 route. She's, like, still mean to people, but, you know, with a sense of justice to it or something like that, right? Like, oh, Tera is a bad person. Pretty kind of. You know what I mean. So I'm going to bully him all the time, and it ends up getting turned around on her in the same way that it did in the original game, but in an ironic twist is what I'm saying. I think there'll be much ironic twists in this version of events. Soya and Kazuichi definitely feel like they're going to die too. But where is a question? I honestly think... Where was this in the game? Do you remember that section of the game where Nekomaru comes back as a robot because he gets blown up? That's because Akane and him are fighting, right? Is that in chapter... That must be in chapter 4. It's at the beginning of chapter 4, and then he comes back to get killed later in it, right? So I feel like that might still happen, except Akane will actually... like, they'll actually fight, and Akane will actually kill him. That would be, again, ironic, right? It's like an alternate universe. And it's such a minor event. Like, Nekomaru dying in this chapter is obviously not a minor event. But the reason he becomes a robot is such a minor event to me. Like, I barely remember the details that I could actually see them playing on that and have it be like, wait, the murder case is that event, right? They're bringing it back. Oh, I see. I still need another chapter 3 death. Well, maybe it's best to nail down the survivors first. I think Gundam's gonna live, personally. Isn't this a much more interesting list of survivors already? I think so. I think Byakuya is gonna die, personally. Wouldn't it be funny if they both died in the same chapter? No, I don't think that's gonna happen. But I I do think Byakuya is going to die. I think that's going to be his whole character arc. He's going to sacrifice himself for these people he sees as worthless, right? That feels right to me. And it would also set this timeline down a different path, right? If Byakuya is not there. Makes sense. Who would kill Byakuya? Honestly, maybe it is both Byakuyas. That kind of makes sense, right? I have been putting murderers on the left so far, so we'll stick to that. Imposter Byakuya kills Byakuya in some sort of self-sacrifice thing. They're working together to do it in order to try to save everybody from the game. I mean, Chapter 5's trope is an unsolvable case. If anybody was going to create an unsolvable case, it would be Byakuya and Byakuya. So yeah, that does make sense to me. I think Chapter 2 has to be Kazuichi and Sonia then. I think we might get toxic incel Kazuichi. I don't know. It could happen. Obviously, Sonia is also from a country where they regularly execute people, and she loves serial killers. Actually, oh, never mind. I'm changing this. Also, before I delve into this, I know there's a lot more depth to Kazuichi. I actually quite like him in the free time events. I think he's a very interesting character, but given what we see in the actual game of Danganronpa 2, I wouldn't be surprised if they made him toxic incel Kazuichi that kills the girl he's after. But given Sonia's obsession with serial killers, and the fact that Chapter 2 was about a fake serial killer already, wouldn't it be ironic if Sonia took on the role of another fake serial killer, considering she was involved in that case? Oh, that's so good. I like that so much. That's totally never going to happen. I think the only thing that makes sense now is that Mikon is going to kill Fuyiko. I think that only really makes sense. Leaving Mikon out first feels a little bad. But then again, I feel like we kind of did explore everything there was to explore in Mikon's character. And she does deserve a better execution than what she got. But I could see that, considering everybody in the island is fairly well adjusted during the course of Danganronpa 2. And then Mikon breaks, right? Like, Mikon is already kind of despair just because of her complete dedication to Junko. And I think there might be some sort of implication that she caught the despair disease early or something, and that's why. But I kind of like it better if her character is just so devoted to the only person that ever actually cared about her, in her mind anyway. But, I mean, the anime kind of disproves that because everybody was kind of friends. But in the original game's canon, where it seems like the group of girls, like in Twilight Syndrome Murder Case, were a little bit separate from the rest of the class, Mikon being the butt of everybody's jokes and constantly getting picked on by Hiyoko. The idea that Junko, this amazing, perfect girl, would swoop her off her feet and make her feel worthwhile so she'd fully commit herself to despair, that just makes sense to me. So the idea that she might be the first one to kill, like the most innocent person seemingly would be the one to kill the most dangerous looking person seemingly, I could see that makes sense for Danganronpa. And it would also be surprising for the sense that, you know, Fuyiko is an important character, right? And he's also like kind of the villain of Chapter 1 in Danganronpa 1 already, so that ironic twist is back there again. Like, Fuyiko didn't die in Chapter 1 because, you know, he didn't go to the party, right? He got blocked out. Or he didn't, like, cause trouble in Chapter 1 because of that. In this alternate version of events, maybe that doesn't happen, and then he does get killed. Isn't it ironic? Ha ha ha. Now the question is, does that mean Ibuki's gonna live? Like, where would she fit here? Oh, she'd have to go here. Now I'm doubting myself, because I really don't think they'd have two people die in Chapter 3 that were, like, the same kind of, like, that died in Chapter 3 already, right? that feels wrong. And like Hiyoko killing Teru in a very ironic way of like, you know, her twisted sense of justice or whatever, like I was talking about before. Sure, that makes sense, but then it does not make sense why she'd kill Ibuki. Well, that would be ironic. Okay, I have an idea. Okay, I have an idea. I think Akane could be a killer in Chapter 3 and go after people she sees as weak in order to try to survive, right? That seems fair. Now, people she would see as weak, all three of these people could work. So the question becomes which of these three would probably be most likely to survive? In which case, I mean, the maximum irony factor would be Teru lives. And would also... Oh no, there's only 2 girls in the survivor camp right now, so that would not balance out the genders there like in Danganronpa 1. In that case, I don't think he's going to make it. Because he's too annoying to last that long. You know what I mean? To be fair, we'd probably be saying the same thing about Kazuichi if he died first too. And a lot of people actually do say that, so never mind. But we could have an ironic thing where it's actually Nekomaru sacrifices himself because he feels bad that his like protege killed 2 people and he wants the killing game to end. And it's a reference to Sakura, right? Where like this finally breaks through to Byakuya what Sakura originally did, right? I know in the original game he does have a change of heart after that and wants to defeat the mastermind, but this would be like a replay of that, and we would get to explore his character specifically because we don't have to explore everybody else who was involved in that situation. So Hiyoko or Ibuki, who would survive? I think if we're going maximum fan service in terms of like what fans want after Chapter 2 or Danganronpa 2, I keep saying Chapter 2. I think it'd probably be Hiyoko. My only issue with that is that would mean the 3 girls that survive till the end of the game are all involved in the second case of the original Danganronpa 2. Well, I guess Ibuki's technically involved in that in murder case, but she doesn't actually, you know, contribute in the same way Hiyoko, Mahiru, and Peko do. And it also feels like if Mahiru's going to be a survivor, you want a reason for her to like exist as a survivor. I know that's kind of radical when it comes to Danganronpa 2. They kind of just let whoever end up as a survivor, but I think I do have to go with Ibuki. Huh. I mean, I really like Ibuki. She's got a lot of depth in her free time events that we could explore too. But you know, I wasn't really planning on having her survive. But that's a pretty interesting cast of survivors, right? You've got Nagito, who was formerly, you know, gonna kill people, but now he's made it all the way to the end as like a helpful partner type guy. Even if he still probably deals with the same violent urges as he exhibits in the original game. Maybe Hajime is actually able to talk him down. Actually, interestingly, of the people in this survivor group, I would say they're all people who did not have harsh feelings towards Nagito specifically. You know what I mean? Like, Kazuichi, Fuyiko, Akane, I mean, Imposter died, but would have, certainly. Mikan probably would have just killed him if she had the chance. So, oh, and Hiyoko, of course, also hated Nagito in the original game. But, like, Mahiru tried to still treat him as a human, even though she did not really like him. Peko had no real opinion on him in the original game. Gundam barely ever talked about him in the original game. And Ibuki was pretty oblivious of him in the original game. So it's kind of funny that all the survivors would end up being people that can tolerate Nagito in this more Nagito-centric story, presumably. Yeah, that makes sense. Peko goes on a character arc of, you know, discovering her own self-worth as a person and then carrying on the torch for Fuyuhiko now that he's passed. And potentially, you know, building bridges with Mahiru. Like, maybe instead of a Hiyoko Mahiru girl power, we get a Peko Mahiru girl power. That would be interesting. Mahiru, obviously, I'm biased, but Mahiru, I think, has a huge amount of growing that she could do through the course of this game, because she only ever really got to exist for a single chapter, and then her death was more or less not even her own actions that caused it. It was Hyoko, Fuyuhiko, and Sato's actions that led to it. So there's a lot of growth you could have there for Mahiru. And she's a photographer. So there's so much case potential with having a photographer character make it to the end. Like, so many times where you could bring a photo as evidence of something that she took at a certain time. It's good, it's good. Gundam, interestingly, I really think Gundam has, like, the most interesting motive of maybe any Danganronpa killer, which is, like, survival of the fittest. Like, I'm not going to watch everybody starve away because they're cowards. I'm going to kill somebody, not because I want to escape myself, but because I believe in the laws of nature and that the survival of the fittest should always be upheld, right? So I'm going to fight, the biggest guy here, and whichever one of us is stronger will either live or everyone else will prove they are stronger in the trial and live. And to see that sort of idea or that philosophy sort of clash up against Nekomaru's personal sacrifice in Chapter 4, as well as everything else that's going on, right? To have him end up as a survivor, not only, like, proving we are the fittest or whatever, but showing that, perhaps that law of nature is not all that you should allow to govern the way you think about this killing game. That actually is a pretty interesting character arc that Gundam could go down. And then Ibuki, I don't really have any thoughts about Ibuki specifically as a survivor. It's nice, and it makes sense, sort of, that she would go from, like, a funny haha joke character and then mature, sort of like Sonya does in the actual game, right? Where her early appearances are all about misunderstanding Japanese culture and talking about weird things from her home country, and that still, like, happens later on, but she becomes more of a fully fledged character that actually has some stake in the plot. I imagine that would be Ibuki's role in this theoretical survivor cast. Makes it sound like they're going to on the reality TV show Survivor, but no. So yeah, that's my thoughts about Danganronpa 2x2. Hope you enjoyed. I hope you're excited, because I am. I really I really never thought I was going to make a Danganronpa video again, honestly. Other than, the little throwaway ones I was doing every now and again that crossed over with something else I was doing on the channel. Just because, like, there's no new official content. There's no real audience for it. I played some Fangaronpas, and Super Danganronpa Another 2 and Danganronpa Another did okay. Everything else I tried to do other than that didn't really. And I can understand that, because these are actual games and they're quite well. At least Super Another 2 is quite well done. So I get it. But now that there's a new actual game in the series, we are so back. If you are someone who has made it to the end of this video, thanks a lot. Big thumbs up to you. I'm still going to be doing Deltarune content for the foreseeable future. I've got a few more theories up my sleeve that I definitely want to do, and I'm sure I'll figure out some other stuff. I mean, the Deltarune newsletter is going to come out in like a couple days as of when this is posted. So there'll be a lot of Deltarune stuff to talk about. But, if there's any news about this game and I'm not immediately posting about it, I would appreciate if you guys would let me know, because Danganronpa news sometimes slips by me, especially nowadays when there's a much smaller audience around this specific kind of game, because there just hasn't been a real one for so long. Let me know. Somehow Nagito returned. I can't believe it.